Hello and welcome to my channel. In this channel, I basically simplify languages, and today we're doing German. We're doing wo versus wohin, where or way to, which is Dativ und Akkusativ. Dativ und Akkusativ. Okay, so we're doing an exercise that is readily available on eslcollective.com, which will also be linked in the description below, where you can find free activities to do. So I would recommend you to download the worksheet and try and do it with me or before I do it, and then you can see if you did it correctly. It is relatively easy in terms of that the worksheet does tell you if it's der, die, oder das, which I'll show you now. I'm going to screen share now and let's get into it. Okay, so here we have the worksheet. Where or where to? So in German, basically, if you want to say you're at a certain place, wo, which is where, it's different to when you're saying you're going somewhere. Still going, where to? Okay, so these two are not the same. Mm-mm. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So we have Ich bin im Kino und du. I'm at the movies and you. So first step is to actually figure out if you're somewhere or if you're still going somewhere. So I'm at the movies. This is what the sentence means. But we can see that there's no movement because we have sein here. Sein is the verb to be. Ich bin, du bist, er, sie, es ist, wir sind, and so forth and so weiter. Okay. So first step is to figure out, is there movement? So if there's movement, that means it's going to be where to, wohin, which is Akkusativ. So movement or no movement. Okay, that's the first step. Second step is to figure out what the article is. Der, die, oder das. In the nominative form, so the original article. Okay, so here this bin, which is sein, shows us there's no movement, which is equal to wo. So that means wo means dative. If you're really lost, then I recommend you doing a more of a beginner video, or I'll make another one. Just write me in the comments if you're lost, because you do require some German knowledge. Okay, so wo ist Dativ? Wo ist Dativ? Dative und wohin is Akkusativ. Okay. So the reason why we're trying to figure out where or where to is because you're going to use different articles. The articles change. Okay, so you should know this table. This is really simplified here. It helps you if you don't really know how to put the article and the preposition together, which we'll also get into. But you should know this table, which is der, die, das. Okay, so this is nominative. Then I usually go to accusative first and then dative. Okay, so der changes to den in accusative. Die does not change in accusative. Das also does not change. So this is our table. Okay, this is our lovely table. You should have it somewhere there if you don't already have it in your brain, drilled in your brain. Okay, so der, den, and then it changes to dem on an M. Die changes to der, and das also changes to dem. Okay, so let's make masculine blue so you can see, and then feminine, die pink, and neutral, we're gonna just make yellow. Okay, so basically, wo here is Dativ, okay? And wohin is Akkusativ. So if there's movement, we're looking at this one, movement, wohin, Akkusativ. If there's no movement, then we're looking at wohin. So quickly pause and just write this down. So M for no movement, M for movement, no movement for Dativ. So M, movement, no movement, you're somewhere. Okay, so wohin, let's just say this again. Wohin is Akkusativ, which implies there's some sort of movement going on in the sentence. And then wo is dative, which means there's no movement, you're somewhere, right? Because if we're at the movies, like in the first one, we're there, we have arrived, we're sitting in the theater, right? But if I'm saying like, oh, I'm going to the movies, then you're taking some sort of transport or you're walking or there's movement going on. Okay, but we're not going to get too much into this because this is technically it's quite an easy exercise. Um, yeah. Okay. So kino, I think at the bottom was kino here. We should have actually made it the same colors. Okay, so let me make the das green. Okay, so anything that's green in this exercise is neutral. And this exercise is really nice, this worksheet, because they give you the articles at the bottom in terms of colors. So anything that's green is das, red or pink is die, und dann blau ist der. Blue is der. Okay, so ich bin Kino. Okay, Kino is das. But now we said bin implies wo, and wo means dative. So this das is still in nominative. So what does das change to in the dative case? To dem. Okay, so you can go right. Ich bin in. Let's just make all of our answers in black so we can see it. Ich bin in dem Kino, or you can group them together, which means im. You say im. That's why this table on the side has this im here and here, because anything that has in plus dem, you can write this. In dem isn't wrong, but you hear people say im. But if you're writing a test or an exam in German, in dem is also right, but sometimes they might want you to write im, so just be aware of that. It means the same thing. Okay. Ich bin im Kino. Und du? Now we have ich gehe heute Abend Disco. So again, we're going to use in. The reason also why we're trying to figure out whether if there's movement or no movement is because of this preposition in. This preposition in is extremely problematic. I'm just joking. It's called a Wechselpräposition, which means it essentially can change between the cases. So it can be either Akkusativ or Dativ. So certain prepositions, which I'll make another video on, are always dative. When you use this, whatever follows this preposition is always going to be dative, or whichever preposition follows another accusative is always accusative, no matter if there's movement or no movement. It's only the Wechselpräpositionen that we have to figure out if there's movement or no movement, because they decided to be both accusative und dativ. And so, in this sentence, ich gehe heute Abend in Disco, gehe shows us this movement. So it's also here understanding what the sentence is saying. But if you have gehe, it does always mean accusative because you're saying wohin, where are you going? Okay, now step 2 is to figure out what is disco. So we can go down. What is disco here? Here's disco. and we can see it's die Disco. But can we just go right, ich gehe heute in die Disco? Can we? Let's just double check our table. Does die change in Akkusativ? No. So yes, we can go write that. But if it were dative, then it would have changed. But here you can see die. Ich gehe heute in die Disco. This is the answer. But if I were to say ich bin, I'm at the disco or the club. I think disco is a bit of an outdated word, but I'm not sure. I think so. So if I were to have said I am at the club or the disco, then the sentence would have been ich bin, mm, let's write in so long, in disco. This, however, means where, right? So it means dative. And we know it's D, but D changes to der in dative. So then you would have had to say, ich bin in der Disco. Okay. If you're not with me yet, don't worry. I'll make another video or hopefully by doing all these exercises, some sort of light bulb will go on. Okay. Heute bleibe ich Schule bis 13 Uhr. Okay, bleibe. What does bleibe mean? So here we also have to know what the verbs mean. Bleibe means to stay. So today I'm staying, or yeah, I'm staying at school until 1 o'clock. So to stay somewhere it does not imply movement. So if there's no movement, then we're saying where you are, which is dative. Second step, was ist Schule? Ist es die, der oder das Schule? Let's see. This one you should actually know. Schule, wo ist Schule, Schule, Schule? Here. It's in red. Oh, okay. So it's islcollective.com. I think I said ESL. ISL, guys. islcollective.com. You can find different worksheets. Oops. Um, my Zoom meeting link. Okay. Okay. Heute bleibe ich. Okay, es ist die Schule. But now we know if you're saying where you are, then it's probably going to change. So die changes to der. Der. So now you're saying, heute bleibe ich in der Schule bis 13 Uhr. Okay. Dann, wo lernst du Deutsch? Schule oder Institut? So we know die Schule. Let's check Institut. Institut is green, which means it's das. Okay. You can write the original articles above the words. I think that is a really good idea. Wo tells us already what the answer is. Not necessarily yet, but you should. Well, it makes it so easy. Okay, so wo is Dativ. So we're gonna have to basically just change die to dative and das to dative as well. So let's just write in so long. So where do you learn German, at school or at a language institute? So in Schule, wir wissen ja der. We know it's der. Die changes to der. So in der Schule, what does das change to though? In Dativ. Let's check. Dem. Okay. All right. In dem Institut. And if we have something that says in dem, you can go right im. Both are right. So in der Schule oder im Institut. You can't put these two together though. There's no word for that. Okay, also lernst du Deutsch in der Schule oder im Institut? Okay. Ich möchte Theater gehen. Hast du Zeit? Theater is a place that we're going to, that we need a noun that we have to figure out if it's der, die oder das. So let's go check. Theater, auch das, also das. So we write the original article about it. Okay, ich möchte Theater gehen. Gehen, easy, wohin. It always means wohin, which means Akkusativ. So now we're gonna go check what is das in Akkusativ. Let's see, das ist das in Akkusativ. So, ich möchte in das Theater gehen. In das, you can also write ins, the same thing. It's better to actually write ins, but in das means the same thing. This is the table we have here, ins. So this one is Akkusativ, this, if you understand this one better. And this side is Dativ. Okay. And the blue is obviously for der. The green is for das. And the last one is for die. So, yeah. Okay. Oh, and this is kind of confusing when I wrote there. So just blue is der. This one is das. And this one is die for the colors, right? Does that make sense? Which then change. If you're very, very lost again, I would recommend a more beginner video. But this exercise is quite easy, but there's a lot of previous concepts that I don't really discuss in too much detail. Okay. Also ich möchte ins Theater gehen. Hast du Zeit? I would like to go to the theater. Do you have time? Okay, Nummer 6. Morgen spielt Borussia Dortmund gegen Werder Bremen. I hope I pronounced all that correctly. Kommst du mit? Stadion? Sorry, something happened there with my laptop. Aber wir sind zurück. We are back. So, where were we? Number 6. Let me just join this meeting with my iPad. Number 6. So, kommst du mit Stadion? Are you coming with us to the stadium? Okay. So, are you coming with us in the stadium is the question. So, komm shows us this is movement. Und dann Stadion. Let's check. Der, die oder das. Wo ist Stadion? Stadion. Stadion. Ja, das. Okay. Also, kommst du mit? Und das ist das. This is accusative because it's movement. So let's quickly check. Accusative does not change. Kommst du mit in das Stadion? Okay. Dann, ich gehe Kino. Ich möchte den neuen Film von Fernando Meirelles sehen. Okay. Ich gehe Akkusativ, we've had Kino, es ist das. Und ich gehe ins Kino oder in das Kino, ist the answer. Wo ist Mama? Sie ist Küche, sie kocht eine Suppe für dich. Okay, so Küche ends on an E, so it's probably die, aber let's double check this. Küche, die. Ja. Okay, also Mama ist, we want to say the mom is in the kitchen. So this wo already shows us it's dative, and this ist shows us there's no movement, which obviously it's also dative. So what does D change to in the dative case? So here it is. Die, der. Wo ist Mama? Sie ist in der Küche. Okay, she's cooking a soup for you. Konrad geht Bibliothek. Er möchte einige Bücher ausleihen. Okay, also geht, shows us this movement. Gehen. So it's Akkusativ. Akkusativ. Bibliothek, ist es der, die oder das? Es ist die. Die Bibliothek. Konrad geht in die Bibliothek. But how I got to that, sorry, I jumped a bit. Die does not change in accusative, so it just stays die. Okay. And then the last one that I'm going to do, I'm not going to do the entire document because it's taking too long and I want to see maybe you guys can do it yourselves and then the answers will be somewhere, either linked below or in the comments somewhere. And then you can see if you can do it yourself if you have not been doing it with me. Okay. Schule, wir wissen, Schule ist die, because Schule was probably one of the first words that you learned after Frau, Mann, so one of the first nouns. Gehen, again, Akkusativ. And does die change in Akkusativ? Nein. But I can show you again. Die does not change in the accusative case. It just stays the same in accusative. Okay, wann gehst du in die Tanzschule? Okay. So that was that for today. I hope you learned a thing or two. As I said, it does involve a few concepts that need some prior knowledge. So if you want me to make another video on that, please comment down below. If you want a one-on-one class or some sort of group classes, then you can also just email this email. I think I'll put it here. Or follow me on Instagram. Okay. Then until next time, bye.